The DCEU consists of a lot of film projects that have some of the wildest pivots in Rotten Tomatoes scores you've ever seen for a franchise. So in this video, I'm going to do something that many of you requested, and that's go from the lowest to the highest earning Rotten Tomatoes score and look at the entire franchise to date. So once again, I want to make this clear, Rotten Tomatoes is not the be-all, end-all, or anything like that, but it is an industry standard that is used now and has quite a good amount of power behind it. So with that in mind, let's get into the rankings. So at number 13, we have the original Suicide Squad, which has a score of 26%. This, of course, was the second entry for the DCEU after Man of Steel and after they pivoted to the shared universe with Batman v Superman, which lands at number 12 with a 29 on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, of course, both of these films made money at the box office, but their scores were really the dividing factor among fans and WB. At number 11, we have Black Adam with a 38%, which honestly isn't that shocking. But below it, we have probably the biggest damage out of any of them. The highly anticipated first time in live action Justice League from 2017 that scored a 39%. This is obviously pretty bad, and this was more or less the death blow to the DCEU. Next up is Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which has a 49%. Obviously, the follow-up to Shazam was not as well received. But shockingly, in 8th place with a 56 is Man of Steel. This, of course, still is a rotten, but this was the film that kicked everything off. Obviously, a 56, yeah, it's a pretty divisive film among fans and critics. And obviously, I think people have warmed up to it a little bit more since its release because they saw what happened with the rest of the franchise. Then we have Wonder Woman 1984 at a 58. Honestly, I don't know how this got so high. Man of Steel should definitely be above this along with another handful of other films. But it is what it is, and it is a rotten. Then we have The Flash with a 64%. This gets a fresh rating. So it's their first fresh rating out of all of these films, meaning only 6 films have a fresh. Then we have Aquaman with a 66%. Again, Aquaman, it's an interesting one. It comes at an interesting time for the DCEU, and people were still hoping for some hits. Obviously, a 66 is a hit. Then we have Zack Snyder's Justice League at a 72. This, of course, didn't get a big theatrical release, but it is the definitive version of the film. At number 3, we have Blue Beetle with a 78. Certified fresh, makes sense, people love this film, critics loved it, but not many audiences saw it. Speaking of not many audiences seeing it, Birds of Prey is the same score, a 78 and a fresh. I love the Birds of Prey, it's my second favorite DCEU film. Absolutely adore everything about it, so I'm glad it's up here. Then we have Shazam, which sits at a 90. So talk about a drop from 90 to Shazam! Fury of the Gods being one of the lowest, which, again, yeah. But it's also tied with The Suicide Squad for second place, which, again, yeah, does make sense. And also, I should note that this film is, well, it's one of those divisive ones because people wanted more of the DCEU, but the critical score is up here, so it is what it is. At number 1, we have Wonder Woman, but with a 93, it is actually topped by another project. Their sole DCEU TV series, Peacemaker, sits at a 94. So technically, the best thing that's ever come out of the DCEU is actually James Gunn's Peacemaker spinoff. So overall, there it is, the breakdown. There's a lot of projects in here, and as we can see, majority are considered to be bad. Now, what is your guys' take on this when you got the bigger scope of the picture?